Hey, beautiful people. So I have everyone muted to start, but go ahead during this process if you're someone who wants to unmute yourself, raise your hand. I'll let you unmute. I'm going to make this more of a collaborative thing because it's highly likely that a lot of you guys have used n8n more than I have. I know I've used it off and on, but it's a really powerful tool for people like yourselves that don't have a dev team to build automation. So I'm going to show the power of CloseBot and where CloseBot is really awesome and where sometimes it makes more sense to hand off to an automation tool like n8n. First of all, yes, can everyone hear me? I see yes, I can. Sweet. Give me give me a one in the chat for my CloseBot people using CloseBot, qualifying leads, booking appointments. Probably most people here. Give me a zero if that's not you, just so I can know. And it's fine either way. Both are welcome. This is more of a learning opportunity, and this will apply to people using it and not using it too, just learning more automation stuff. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I don't see any zeros in the chat, so I'm going to assume we have all CloseBot people. Cool. So we have we have CloseBot here. And the power of CloseBot, if you haven't realized already, is the ability to control conversation flows. I have gotten a couple examples from CloseBot users who also use n8n of them saying, hey, you really should do a call to clarify some things. Here are some examples where CloseBot's awesome and some examples where n8n is awesome. He had a simple flow in n8n where he wanted to have an agent conversationally gather some information, update the fields, and then do two different things based on some information it collected. And it could get it right maybe 60 to 70% of the time, he said, but that's not good enough for us. For example, let's say you are qualifying two different lead types or three or four, maybe you're a med spa client with a bunch of different services, expecting an agent with a text prompt that can decide which path to go down and stay consistent. It just can't happen. But the nice thing with those sort of systems is you have access to all these tools that it can use at any time. So how do we start to get those to work together? That's what I'm going to show today. We're going to have a simple example where CloseBot is interacting we're going to do the chat widget just because it makes it easy to test. And then at any point that the lead asks for an email, we're going to trigger via a custom scenario a webhook out to n8n, send it some information that we have, and that's where it's going to draft an email for us and send it to the lead. So this is a really common thing that people want, and eventually this and other things like this will be built-in features into CloseBot, but this will show you how you can do it now. Okay, so I have this flow here. I'm actually going to make this from scratch. I'm going to do everything from scratch. So let me disconnect the source that I have here just so I don't forget. And let's create a new flow. n8n. I'll just call it n8n email. Put it in my live builds group. Connect it to my sub account. Create from scratch. Okay, so we're sitting here. Now I want to conversationally gather name, email, we'll just do first name, email, and then business. We'll do business name, and I'll show you some more advanced things we could do with n8n with that information. And then afterwards, we'll just have it do conversation, question, answer type stuff. So simple gathering information and then chatting back and forth. But at any time, if the person or we detect that they want an email sent, we're going to trigger this separate flow. And in this separate flow, we're going to do a save conversation. This has a couple different options. We can either save a summary or the transcript. I'm just going to summarize the conversation and save it to this summary holder field that I created in this HighLevel sub account. It's just a multi-line field just to hold the conversation summary. Okay, so simple, just for the people that I just let in, we have this simple flow. It's going to be on the chat widget. It's going to conversationally get someone's first name, business name, email, and then chat back and forth with them. Maybe it's about our services or location, whatever. But if the person's like, hey, can you email this to me at any time? We want to be able to send an email, and we're going to use n8n for that. We created this email detect so that if we detect that, it throws it into here where we are going to save a summary of the conversation to this summary holder field, and then do a webhook. A webhook can be scary, shouldn't be as scary now with AI. You could even take a snapshot, a screenshot of this and send it into something like ChatGPT and ask what to put here. But this is how we're going to get information over to an n8n flow. So let's open up n8n. And I won't create this from scratch just because it's only 2 steps in. Actually, I will. Let's just create everything from scratch. And we'll save it. Okay, so here, if you guys don't have an n8n account, maybe you've heard about n8n and you're lost on what it really is. More than likely, you have worked with like Zapier, Make, Pabbly, these sort of tools. n8n is going really viral right now. It's one of those tools, but they have a really nice way of building assistants that have access to these models and can use tools that you set up for them. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. At this point in the conversation, we want it to catch that data from CloseBot and send an email to this contact. Now, I have not done this before, have not tested it before, so we're doing this together. I like to do it that way for a couple reasons, so that you can see my troubleshooting steps. We will run into things, I'm sure, that we can troubleshoot through. And those troubleshooting steps are really important to learn. Okay, so first I need to add a step. And we want to trigger this when we get a webhook. So on a webhook call. So this gives us, think of it as like a property address. If we wanted to send a piece of mail to a place. We need an address, whether that be a physical address, PO box. This is like an address. This is where we're going to send the information to. Now I'm going to change this method. It's not going to matter to you guys, but I like to stick to best practices. I'll teach you the two most common ones, get and post. Get is typically used when you're sending information to get information. Post is when you're sending information to update something. I'm going to use post because technically we're updating that we're going to be creating this email. Doesn't really matter which one I pick. Both of them will work, but we'll just do post. Okay. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat so far. Okay. I think we're good. All right. So we have this address now. I'm going to click to copy that. And we need to put that in here. That method I said was post. Let's title this n8n. Okay. Now we come back here. We can listen for test event. And let's test it. And we got this message back from n8n. If we go back to n8n, we see that we got some stuff. Now we want to send it some stuff too. So let's learn how we can use this webhook to send it stuff. The simplest way for you guys to send stuff is going to be in form data, where we can send it a key and a value. So a good example would be contact ID. We give you that. Contact ID. And let's just test this again, see how it comes in. Okay, got it right there. And now obviously this isn't tied to a contact yet. I'm just in the testing portal. So that's just carrying through our variable. But when we're doing this in production, there will be an actual contact ID there. Some other things I'll need. Let's go to the API docs for HighLevel. This is another area that looks scary. Not scary with AI. You can take screenshots of any of this stuff and ask for feedback. But I went into the messages section and we want to send a new message. And let's look at what we need to do. We need type in there. Here, let's start at the top. Access token. You guys are lucky working with CloseBot because we give you the access token. So we need to send the access token. Okay. We need the version. And this is just a fixed value that we have to put in there. So we don't need to send that over. We'll just hard code that in n8n. And then we need the type, which will be email. Again, same sort of thing. We don't need to send that over. Contact ID, we do need to send that over because it changes and we put that in there. That's here. And what else do we need? That's all that it says is required. Cool. So we also want to send it this contact summary. So like I had mentioned, I created this summary field. I'm updating the summary field. And then I want to pull the contents of that summary field in when I'm generating the email. So let's send over the contents of that summary too. Okay, I did test webhook, got an error. Make sure you have it listening for an event when you do that test. Okay, so we have these pieces of information here. Make sure to save it. Okay, so we have this set up. And then after this, I could make it go up to conversation, or I could just leave it this way and it would go back to wherever it was. So if it was in the middle of getting their business name when we sent the email, it would continue to get their business name. Let's send the business name too, just so we have that. Okay. And let's test this again. I like to do listen for event and test every time I'm adding stuff, because that's what'll make it available within n8n. So when you test, it knows these are going to be available and you can use them later, which will be important when we have AI generate our email and we're calling out these variables. Okay, so at this point I can click back and let's add. Now we do have this high level action, but this is going to require that you create your own app. And you guys probably don't have your own app. If you do, you can use that. But you probably don't. So let's use another webhook in here. It's not in HighLevel. Just want to make sure I pick the right one. What was the other webhook? Yep, this is what I want. So coming in here, oh, actually, sorry. First, we need OpenAI. So we're going to have to draft this email before we send the email. I'm going to do just message a model. I have my OpenAI account connected, but if you don't have it connected yet, you can just do create new credential. And then you just need an API key for OpenAI. If you don't have an API key, if you don't know how to do that, you can go to our help docs within CloseBot and we show you how to do that. We also show you some things to keep in mind so that you increase your limits of what your API key can do. And then what model do we want? to do this. We'll just use 04 mini. Again, if you don't know what to pick here, just put it into ChatGPT. Say, I'm drafting an email. What would be the best model from OpenAI to use to draft a simple email? Okay, now here's where we're going to have it draft the email. We need to give it a prompt. Draft an email. I didn't send over the contact name. That would be helpful for our email. So let's do that. Let's go here and make sure we're also sending contact name. Okay, contact name. We should probably just send over the email too. I don't know if the API requires it. It's always best just to send it more. I need to make it listen. I don't know why it wasn't working. Let's try this again. Webhook node not correctly configured. Wonder if it just doesn't like this stuff sitting here that's not set up all the way. Let's deactivate these things. Huh, doesn't like me. What does it say? Maybe let's just delete this stuff. And try it again. Change the response from immediately. Someone says. I think it worked before though. Hold on. There we go. Okay, I just had to get that other information in there so I can use it later. Cool. Now let's do the OpenAI thing again. Message a model. O4 mini. Send an email or draft an email that will be sent to there we go. Include just the contents of the email without any explanation from you about why you wrote the email. the way you did. I know that AI likes to do things like it'll say the email and then at the end it'll say, I drafted this email in this way because it clearly identifies blah, 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 blah. Let me know if you'd like anything changed. And I just want to try to avoid it doing that. This is my first attempt at doing that. Here is some information to keep in mind. Business name. Summary of conversation we had. Yeah, it's probably good. We can execute the step. Now this is all just blank variables, so the output's not going to be very helpful. But it does its best shot. I see that it's going to want to sign off stuff. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so now we have it pulling in this information from CloseBot, and we have it generating an email. Next, we'll have to have it send. Output data may change when this node is run again. Okay, cool with that. HTTP request, that's what I needed to use. We want to use HTTP request, I think, when we're just sending information somewhere and we don't have to return it back to the source, which would be CloseBot. That's what that other webhook one was trying to do, and that kind of messed stuff up. Okay, so now here's where we pull this open. Okay, authorization in the header. Head, or no, it's going to be a post. This is the method. You can see that here, post, post. Here's the endpoint. Authentication. What's this? Authentication. Maybe I can do none. And I'll just specify it with the fields. So we have these headers we need to send. This is what I'm trying to do. We have one called authorization. And the value is bearer space and then that token. From the webhook, we got that token. here. Now keep in mind, this token we get from CloseBot. So again, we're nice enough to give you that token, and that is nice for a couple reasons. It gives you access to all the V2 API stuff that we have in scope. Let me explain what that means. If you go over to your HighLevel account and you click on CloseBot, you can see what our API key has access to do. So you can't get access to everything, but all of this stuff you have full access to. So we could use this to create and delete contacts, to change custom values, calendar stuff, read and write business information, sending messages, deleting messages, getting messages, all that stuff. Okay. What else do we need? This version in the header. You have to be very particular with this stuff. So I noticed capital V. If you get even that wrong, it won't work. Laura says there are people in the waiting room. Hold on. I don't see anyone in the waiting room right now. Okay, now the body needs this in application JSON. So we have a body. It told us it needs to be in JSON. And then we can use fields or JSON. For the more advanced people, we'll just do the fields. Keeps it a little easier. What do we need to include? Type, lowercase t, email. Contact ID, copy and paste things whenever possible, because you might think contact ID and put it all lowercase and then struggle with troubleshooting that for hours. Contact ID right there. Now here, we got the contact ID. What else do we need? Any attachments? So here's where you can get creative too. You could have a step where it uses one of the image models to generate an image, and you could include the image as an attachment, or an audio, whatever. Or maybe you have something in Google Drive that you want to pull in and add as an attachment. Those are all things you can do with n8n. Email from. Doesn't say that's required. Let's just see if it uses the system email. I need to include HTML. I can include both of these always just to be safe. Just wrap it in a P if you're including HTML. You don't know why that is. Again, just go to ChatGPT and say, here's what I want to send as an email. Format it as HTML for me. It'll do that. I believe when you send an email, it just looks at this. So it needs it as HTML. So it knows how to structure it. So that was HTML, all lowercase. And then the value of that actually, we're just going to pull in the response from this. And I'm going to ask the AI to structure it as HTML for me. subject. Okay, so there is an email too, but that's the email address we want to send to if it's different from the contact's primary email. So we don't need to include that since we've saved the email to the contact from our objective. Okay, now executing this won't work because all these are variables not tied to a contact. But let's go into this and say, draft this in HTML. Rafa asked, why is everyone in love with n8n over Zapier? Zapier is a lot more, um, a lot easier to connect and authenticate with things. A lot of the things in here you need like API keys or creating an app for that thing. You can't just like click to authorize Google to access Google Drive, for example. You have to go through a lot of hoops to create credentials that you can use in here. So that's a down. I'm talking about downsides first. That's a downside. But the upsides are you can self-host this, so it's much, much cheaper. You just pay your compute. And um, this is open source, I believe. So if you have a dev team, like you could even go in and modify this platform when you self-host it. Um, yes. As well as how they've built in agents. A lot of people like how they built in agents with tools. So like if I go in here, you can see that I have access to tools here. I could add image generation as a tool here. So if it decides it needs to generate an image, it could do that and then send the email with the image. Okay, I wonder now, let's come back in here. I want to listen for a test event and run through with the chat widget. So let me come over to sites. I made a sample site with a chat widget. For you guys that are looking for effective ways to test, you can inspect a page. It'll hold on to the history of the conversation for you. But if you go into application and clear cookies, I think there are a couple places. I don't know which one of those it is or if it's multiple, but cookies, session storage, local storage. And then I like to do empty cache and hard reload. And then that should make it forget. Yeah, so now it's just a fresh contact. So that's a lot faster than having a bunch of different incognito windows if you're testing a bunch. Here, I don't know that yeah, need to publish, doesn't have a persona. Guess I should clear this stuff up first. Okay, published with my persona. So let's do that again. Now it's getting name, email, business. It can get multiple at the same time. It doesn't have to. It's kind of up to the AI, and it's going to vary depending on the model you pick. So here I'm rolling with um, Sam, who has the primary of OpenAI, and then Gemini can go into our conversation. And I see, like with this message, that it was working on email, name, and business name. It just asked for name, but I know that it was on an objective with all of these. And then this green means it satisfied one of them. It satisfied first name. And here it's working on business name and email. We have more changes coming to this screen to give you better insights into why things are happening since you don't have the view of your builder here. You can't like see, so we have to show you here. We're working on that for you. Anyway, let's go in here now because we're going to be listening for this event here soon. And I want to do taco time, and email is info@tacotime.com. Please email me. We'll just give it a bunch of information. Oh, interesting. It sent it to download. What is this? Test URL and production URL. Maybe one of you guys can let me know what the difference between those are. Interesting. Let's refresh this. So I'd have to let it know that it can email. So we got those things. Test is for testing. Maybe let's switch over to the production one. Oh, you know what? I don't think I published this. Should probably publish. No, that should have worked. I'm just not sure why we got it like this. Let's trigger an email again. First, let's check the contact. Okay, we have the email, we have the name. We have the summary, have the business name. So it went into there. We know it did because we have the conversation summary. So we know it went into here. Then when it did this, I got this. Let's try it again and listen for this event. Interesting. Respond immediately. Let's test it here again. Listening. Test. Okay, let me get this. But when I do it live, yeah, Tyler, this is why I like to show the troubleshooting stuff. Listen for test event. Is this the right? Yep. Okay. Wait for it. Okay, so I got something. I just don't know why it's showing up like this. Form URL encoded content. Maybe let's try production URL. Make it active. Okay. Executions, because I clicked the test. So you should see some stuff in here. And I'm expecting errors because I'm just sending it the fake stuff. But let's use that now. Publish this. And then run a new test. I'm running a new test with clearing this stuff because when you have a contact that comes into here, most of the changes you make to a job flow while a contact is in the middle of a job flow, it works on that past version. It's not going to jump to the new version. So because I made changes and because that contact was already in that job, creating a new contact. And let's just give it a bunch of information. Bryce is my name. Work at Beaubear and info at beaubear.com. Email, please. And I'm getting these kind of responses because I haven't given it any information. If I go into my important business information, like there's nothing in here. It doesn't know why the conversation's happening or any information about my business. It knows nothing. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so it says it passed this, problem in HTTP request. Please check your credentials. Invalid JWT. I want to see the information it brought in last. Anyone who can show me. Oh, I guess that was the wrong one. It's this one. It was the most recent execution. Error, undefined, contact ID, undefined. We did have content here. Can I see what stuff was pulled in? Yeah, so this is telling me it's pulling in this for some reason as URL form encoded. I wonder if it'd be happier if I did JSON. Let me try this real quick. This should work unless it just doesn't like form data. This is going to be one, guys, where I asked the devs to look at this, and then I'll release a recording at the end of this. So I have this all recorded. We went through my troubleshooting steps, which is great because I've never touched n8n either, like probably many of you in the chat. But this shows you how we can get information from CloseBot to n8n. For some reason, when we go in production, it's not pulling in the information that it's supposed to. I can see here undefined instead of actually pulling in the info like it's supposed to. And then naturally, this isn't going to work either because it doesn't have that token that we need to be sending as well. So I'm going to connect with the dev guys. They can straighten me out on this. They'll know why it's getting pulled in differently in production. And I will append a section onto the end of this video on YouTube that clears up the troubleshooting step and how you can get this working. Hey everyone, if you made it this far, you know that we ran into some hiccups before, but that was on our end and we've fixed it. And so this actually works. You don't have to change anything based on what we were going over. And I just want to show you that this really cool thing is working. We have this primary job flow, just to recap, that gets people's first name, email, business name, and then just has a conversation with them. Then if we detect that an email should be sent, what we're going to do is save the conversation summary first to a contact field and send all of this information over to n8n. n8n is going to be the one that uses OpenAI to draft an email and actually send the email. Let's take a look again at what we've included in here. The contact ID, business name from the person, access token. So this is the key that allows you to use the HighLevel API in n8n and send an email off. And if that was a bunch of gibberish, you don't know what I was saying, just follow the rest of the video, do exactly what I did, and this will work out for you. We're also going to send the contact first name and the summary. So let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to come into here. Let's clear this out from previous tests so we can test again. I'm going to come in and just speed things up a little bit. My name is Bryce, and I work at Dairy Queen. Okay, then it's going to ask from email. My email, I didn't give that to it yet. So I've given it my email and I've asked it to email me. So it's going to detect that we're supposed to be sending an email, which means it should go into that other job. And we can come in here and let's check out n8n. So we see it ran, succeeded. I could click into these to see what information it pulled in. And we could go in here and see that the business, oh, this is location business. So when I went in here, location business name, what I should probably do is use the contact business name. There we go. That's why it says 123 Main Street, because that's the business name of the location, just the test Go HighLevel sub account. That's why it said that. This is the token that allows us to be authenticated and send an email through this sub account, which is really cool that we include that. That means you could use this one n8n flow for all of your sub accounts. It'll always have a token that can send to that sub account. And then here's that summary that it pulled in for us. If I go into this, I see the email that it drafted for us. And then I can see that this email was sent successfully. Now, moment of truth, I can come in here. We'll refresh so I can see that contact. And we can see the email that was sent. Now, obviously, I could do more tweaking in the prompt where we generate the email to change the contents of this. It failed to send just because this is a sandbox account. This isn't a paid HighLevel account, just a testing one. So it's not going to send an actual email. But yeah, that shows you that you can use these custom scenarios to detect things and then spool off sub jobs in Zapier, Make, n8n to do other things. CloseBot should be the foundation of how you control the AI because it's really repeatable at scale. It's going to be fantastic at staying on task and routing leads where you want them to go. And then you can rely on sub processes with tools like n8n to do things like this, custom jobs for you. But hopefully this was helpful for everyone, helped you wrap your brain around why you would want to use n8n in addition to CloseBot or Zapier, Make, Pabbly, any of those tools to spin off side automations. I do have a little bit of time. If anyone wants to raise their hand and ask a question specifically about this stuff we covered today. Let's go ahead and do that. So anyone can raise your hand or put questions in the chat. I haven't been looking until now, so if you had a question in there relating to this, go ahead and put it in there again. Otherwise, raise your hand, I'll call on you and we can knock out some questions. Summary right now is in English, but the nice thing about using n8n is you could say, here's the summary. I want you to draft your email based on this summary in Spanish or whatever. What's everyone using for provider? I like Gemini because it's more concise. OpenAI, at least at the beginning, was the best at pulling out information and updating fields. I would say that's probably still the case, but the dev team has done a lot of work into research into the other models and optimizing them for updating fields as well. And after next week, we'll have some backend architecture in place to make it much easier for them to change the prompt depending on the model as well. So that should get even better. Okay, no hands are raised, no more questions in the chat. How will we send node data from webhook to n8n? Because we will see in nodes fields like that. Here, let me go back into that for you. So here's how we're sending things to n8n from CloseBot. You can use form data or JSON if you know about JSON and send it the key and the value. And then when you're doing it in production, these get changed to actual values. You can point to the last node result or the contact data because we have this updating contact fields for first name, email, business name. So I just did the contact field values here. But it would be the exact same if you did like first name result, get email result, get business name result. Okay, thanks everyone. We will get this video up ASAP. Keep in mind, I'm going to link up with the team to figure out what we can do to get this working. I'll do that today and put that on the end of the YouTube video and cut out some of this nonsense where I'm talking about failing you as a leader right now. So it happens. Some of this stuff takes time. Troubleshooting is fun. Enjoy the process because troubleshooting is not going away anytime soon. Okay, thanks everyone, and I will see you next time.